When the tribunal doors opened, the alien widow stood silent, her silver eyes burning with quiet defiance. Her name was Erna Tal, widow of Commander Vesk Tal, once the proud leader of the Xylarian fleet that had waged war against the humans for nearly a decade. The war had ended 6 months ago. Her husband was dead, her world half in ruins, and now she was on trial for his crimes. But the court had decided not to execute her. No, humans were more inventive than that. The sentence, read aloud by the officer, was meant as humiliation. The widow Runatal shall live among humans for a period of 1 Earth year. Her guardian shall be one selected by the Human Council to teach her the value of peace, labor, and humility. In the stands, many humans clapped, others sneered. To most, she was a trophy, an alien war criminal's wife, a living symbol of defeat. Rana kept her head high, her faintly luminescent skin glowing blue under the courtroom lights. Her hands were bound, but her voice was calm. Humans think kindness is punishment, she said quietly. Let us see how well you endure your own mercy. The officer assigned to take her away didn't respond. Chapter 1. The Human On. The edge of a quiet agricultural colony called Cedar's Reach. A human farmer named Elias Rowe waited for his assigned guest. He wasn't a soldier, diplomat, or social worker, just a man who wanted to be left alone. The war had taken his brother, his land had been burned twice, and though peace had returned, the bitterness hadn't left him. When the council contacted him to host a Xylarian widow, he nearly refused. But something about the offer, perhaps the idea of redemption, had made him agree. His house sat beneath tall windmills that groaned as they turned. Fields of golden wheat swayed in the artificial breeze of the colony domes. When the transport ship arrived, Elias stood by his porch, hat in hand, and watched the ramp lower. Out stepped Rena Tal. Even in shackles, she moved like royalty. Her skin shimmered faintly, her long white hair tied back in a braid streaked with metallic strands. The uniform she wore was ragged but clean, her posture unbent. Elias frowned. Name's Elias, he said simply. You can drop the attitude here. No one's impressed. Runa's gaze was sharp as a blade. Do you always greet guests with an insult? He sighed. Only the ones I didn't invite. Chapter 2. The widow's cage. The first few days were quiet, painfully quiet. Elias gave her a small cabin behind the main house. It had basic furnishings, running water, and a food printer, luxuries compared to the prison she'd expected. But she treated everything with suspicion. When he brought her breakfast, she asked if it was poisoned. When he offered her tools to help around the farm, she laughed. You mean to enslave me with kindness? She asked. No, he said. I mean to give you something to do besides glare at walls. Rena eventually joined him in the fields. Her people's strength was greater than a human's. She could lift heavy crates of grain as though they were air. Elias never said it aloud, but he was impressed. At night, they sat apart. He on the porch, she by the small fire pit. The stars above the dome shimmered faintly through the glass ceiling. Once she asked him, "Why did you agree to take me?" Elias shrugged. Didn't have a good reason. Maybe I was tired of hating everything. She tilted her head. And now? He looked at her for a long time. Still tired. But at least the company's... Interesting. Chapter 3. The Garden of Peace weeks passed. The silence between them softened into a kind of companionship. Rena began to tend a small section of the farm, growing native Xylarian herbs whose glowing leaves shimmered in twilight. Elias helped her rig up heat lamps tuned to her species' preferred spectrum. The result was a dazzling patch of color, unlike anything on Earth, a living aurora. She smiled when she saw it bloom for the first time. I didn't think humans could make beauty like this, she said. We're full of surprises, he replied. They started sharing meals, then stories. She told him of her husband, how Vesktal had once been noble before war twisted him into something monstrous. She had begged him to surrender before he died in a blaze of pride and fury. I am punished, not for what I did, she said one night, voice low, but for whom I loved. Elias looked at her across the table. And what if you're allowed to love again? She didn't answer. But for the first time, her eyes softened. Chapter 4. The rumors news travels fast in small colonies. Before long, gossip spread that Elias Rowe was spoiling his alien guest. He ignored it mostly. But one morning a council officer visited unannounced. Captain Hayes stepped out of his shuttle, smirking. "You've gone soft, Rowe. The tribunal sent her here for reformation, not a honeymoon." Elias clenched his fists. "She's working hard, earning her keep." Runa appeared beside him, calm but cold. "If kindness is treason, then perhaps your peace is built on cruelty," Hayes scoffed. "Careful, alien. You're still under sentence." When he left, Runa turned to Elias. "You risk your standing for me." "Why?" He hesitated. Then, softly, "Because you stopped being a sentence to me." Chapter 5. The Attack It. Was 2 months later when trouble came. A small band of raiders, human deserters embittered by the war's end, hit Cedar's Reach at dawn. They called themselves the Purge Sons, bent on killing every alien parasite still breathing. Elias grabbed his old rifle. Arna refused to hide. "If they come for me," she said, "they'll find I am not defenseless." When the raiders broke through the gate, the widow moved like a storm. Her Xylarian reflexes and strength made her a blur among them, disarming one, breaking another's weapon arm. Elias covered her with precise rifle shots, but there were too many. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, knocking him down. Runa turned, eyes glowing with rage, and unleashed a sonic cry, a defensive weapon of her species. The sound shattered glass, sent raiders sprawling. When the dust cleared, silence fell over the ruined field. Elias looked up from the dirt. "Remind me never to make you angry." She knelt beside him, pressing her glowing hand to his wound. "You protect me as if I were worth something," she whispered. "You are," he said. "More than you know." Chapter 6. Judgment reversed. The council arrived days later to investigate. The raiders were arrested, but rumors painted Arna as the aggressor. A hearing was held via hololink. The tribunal demanded Elias confirm she had acted violently. He refused. "She saved my life. She saved this colony. If that's a crime, then you can sentence me too." There was a long silence on the other end of the transmission. Finally, the council's spokesperson spoke. "The widow Rinatal has completed her term of integration early. Effective immediately, her sentence is lifted. She is free." Rina looked at Elias, stunned. "Free? To go where?" He swallowed hard. "Wherever you want." But the words hurt to say. She turned her gaze toward the glowing garden outside. Their garden. Then she looked back at him. "And if where I want to be is here?" Chapter 7. Queen of the farm a year later, Cedar's Reach was thriving. The hybrid crops she'd engineered, half Xylarian, half earth grain, had made the colony famous. Travelers came from other domes just to see the shimmering blue fields. Runa had shed the widow's robe of mourning and now wore simple human clothes, her silver eyes bright with laughter. When newcomers asked who she was, Elias always smiled and said, "That's Runa. She keeps this place alive." At night, they'd sit together under the dome's stars, her head resting on his shoulder. "They sentenced me to live among humans," she whispered once. "But you made me live again," Elias chuckled. "Guess I'm guilty of kindness then." She smiled, tracing a glowing fingertip along his hand. "Then I'll share your sentence." My human. The windmills turned, the fields shimmered, and the quiet world that had once known only bitterness now thrummed with peace and love born from punishment. She had come to Earth as a prisoner. He had taken her in as a burden. But in the end, he treated her not as a captive,